We have another guest.
Oh, I think that's a guess. Hey,
Oh, okay.
I think that's a guess. I think I'll mute her.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Hi. Okay, so can you start off by introducing yourself?
Oh, good morning. I'm Marie McKenzie. I'm joining you from Orlando, Florida. I'm registered nurse, sexual assault nurse examiner, and sexual assault recovery coach. I'm the founder of the International Sexual Assault Recovery Institute, where I help women overcome their sexual assault triggers and find intimacy in their relationships. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And could you, before we like talk about, recovery and all of those things, would you mind sharing like how you got into coaching to begin with?
My story is as a sexual assault survivor, I was sexually assaulted by a family member at the age of 11. And
Mm,
I didn't share that story with anyone. I shared it with an aunt when I was in my 40s.
mm-hmm. Oh,
And yes, in my 40s, I kept it all quiet for all those years. In 2021, when I was 59, I was invited on a podcast where I was being interviewed about my role as a sexual assault nurse examiner. And
mm,
then I disclosed on that podcast without even a prior plan. Shortly thereafter, a few months later, I got the opportunity to write my memoir.
mm-hmm.
And in that memoir, I shared my story. So then the world knew about it. Based on that, friends and family, people I knew even from high school were reaching out to me to share their stories of experience with sexual abuse. So people keep reaching out to me. I was a nurse caring for survivors in the emergency department, then later in the clinical setting. So the need is there, so great need there for survivors who don't have the
Mm-hmm.
resources to heal, who don't have help, who don't know where to turn. Some
Mm-hmm.
they're muted, just silent, silent, silent. So I've decided to use the tools that I've utilized to work on myself, combined with my nursing skills and transition that to coaching survivors. Thank you.
What you're doing is truly incredible. You have no idea. And I can't honestly, I mean, I can actually believe why you were silent for that long, but that must have been a very weird experience when you did come out with it. I mean, after 40 years, how did that feel for you?
I agree. I don't even remember how I happened to share it, what the conversation with my aunt
Mhm.
was. She had already passed when I went public. So, we didn't talk about it afterwards. And I
Oh
don't know if she shared
no.
it. I don't know if she shared it with anyone, but we never spoke about it after.
I'm
Yeah.
so
It
sorry. That sucks.
was like,
That
sorry you went through
sucks.
that. Yes.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Okay. Oh God. Ah. Okay, so I mean, talking about recovery, I'll be talking about like how we begin and end everything. So, could you start off by giving tips on how do you deal with the extreme initial aspect of the assault? Like it's just happened. It's probably not even settled in that you have been probably assaulted, or um, denial, or this sort of numbness.
You see, each person reacts differently.
Mm-hmm,
Some people will shut down, some people
mm-hmm,
will call 911,
mm-hmm,
some people will hide, some people go home,
mm-hmm,
get in the shower, and you just feel like you'll never be clean again.
mm-hmm,
So it's a variety of feelings that each person,
mm-hmm,
experience. My first advice is to always make sure you get to safety because that is the number
okay,
one thing. You want to make sure you are safe
mm-hmm,
in some situations. People are abducted and they don't have control over what situation they're in. But as
mm-hmm,
soon as possible, get to safety. And then medical care is paramount. So
mm-hmm,
when you get into the medical system, the
mm-hmm,
healthcare system, of
mm-hmm,
course, based on where you are, there are resources, advocates, sexual assault nurse examiners, and
mm-hmm,
referral and advocates and referral to continue care mentally,
Mm.
physically, spiritually, because this affects your entire being. It's not
Right.
just a physical thing. Sexual assault is the only crime where the victim walks around with the crime scene. Yes, and the crime scene.
Right.
And I have to live with this daily, this body that some of us feel like ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in this anymore. You
Right.
see the way you see yourself on the world completely
Mm-hmm.
changes
Absolutely.
after that horrific.
So, how would you? I mean, you're right. This is completely subjective, and this changes from person to person. But how did you start feeling comfortable in your body again? And I'm pretty sure that wasn't like an immediate, quick fix of an experience. Like, how did you slowly start feeling like this body belongs to you and it's not like someone else's?
That took me years
Mm.
because yes, I for years I spent
Mm.
silent. So when you are silent, you're not accepting or caring for yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
don't feel worthy. You have self-esteem issues.
Mm-hmm.
You don't believe you're entitled to be happy or in a great relationship, or the
Mm.
people you choose in your life are not the right kind of connections that you should have.
Mm.
So it wasn't until many, many, many years after I spoke with my aunt while being a nurse, caring for survivors, giving them advice that I wasn't taking for myself.
Mm.
So after connecting with individuals and organizations that
Mm.
work with survivors, then I utilize some of those tools and strategies to help me.
Okay, so
It's over
this
time.
over time. Okay, so you think time would change something?
It's individual and it's not linear.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
our journeys are all different, and there is no time limit. The time it took
Mm-hmm.
me many, many, many years, another
Mm-hmm.
person, it all depends on sometimes the coping skills that you had prior to the incident. Because some children were
Higher.
not brought
Okay.
up, some
All
children were
right.
not brought up with appropriate coping skills. Some
Mm-hmm.
children, some of us were assaulted before we had the chance to develop coping skills
Mm-hmm.
because some are
Mm-hmm.
perpetrators, their families, their parents, their people in position of trust. So when that trust is
Mm-hmm.
broken, you don't have the coping skills, you don't have resources or people to reach out to for support. Sometimes you reach out and you're not believed.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when you start the journey to
Mm-hmm.
healing is different from someone who has the resources right away. And I can't say to someone, oh, it's been 30 years, it's time to get over it, you should have been over it. No, it's when that person gets through it
Decide that it's
in
up
their
to.
own time. Yes.
No, I meant in the sense that would time change anything? Like, if I've been assaulted, would time make any difference at all?
If you're working on it, you
Okay.
have to
Okay.
be doing the work. It just doesn't
Okay.
go away on its own.
Mm-hmm.
This is a traumatic event that's changing your whole life,
Mm-hmm. Right.
change your brain, how you see things, how you see
Mm-hmm.
people, how you see yourself. It
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't go away. It
Mm-hmm.
can be buried for years and you are fine. You appear fine on the outside for years. I functioned fine. I had a beautiful smile. I looked happy, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. And for some survivors, the memory may be blunted, numb. They don't even remember until many, many years later. There's a trigger.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how to frame this right, but okay, how do you deal with the guilt of allowing it to happen to you?
and
Um,
that's the misconception. As a child, I felt guilty, but now
mhm.
I know better. I did not allow it to happen.
No, right.
And
I'm quote unquote.
survivors should not feel that they allow it to happen. As a child, I wasn't responsible for protecting myself. That
Mhm.
was the responsibility of the adults. So it's we victims, survivors should not feel guilty. The guilt, shame should be on the perpetrator 100%.
Mm-hmm. And
And that's what we
but
take on. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry, please continue.
I said we take that on, but it's
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the reasons why we are muted, why we remain silent, because we take
Mm-hmm.
on that guilt
Mm-hmm.
and remain silent. And silence is a perpetrator's best friend because they get to go on and do that again.
Oh God, absolutely. And now this is again completely subjective, but uh, if a victim wants to speak up about it, but are pretty confused if they want to stay silent about it, what should they do? Should they expose the um, perpetrator or stay silent because they don't feel comfortable doing something like that?
It's up to the victim. You
Mm-hmm.
know, each person, it's up to the victim to make that decision. You don't owe
Mm-hmm.
anyone to speak out.
Mm-hmm.
If it's
Mm-hmm.
going to benefit you, speak out. I'm glad I spoke out because it helped
Mm-hmm.
me. It's secret no more. That's not something I'm holding on to that's traumatizing me on the inside. In addition, it helped others
Right.
to, okay, I can speak up. Marie, someone said to me, oh, if you can do that, I can too. And speaking out doesn't mean you have to
Mm-hmm.
go public. I did. It could be just sharing it with a trusted
Mm-hmm.
friend or a coach or a therapist, or you may want to write a book, but it's 100% up to
Mm-hmm.
that individual if they want to.
Okay. No.
Yeah, some
So
people don't disclose because they're protecting the family or the perpetrator.
the family, right,
You're not responsible for protecting anyone, but
right.
it's a
I was just thinking
decision.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a
Yeah.
decision that the survivor has to make.
Okay, so if there's this ounce of guilt where they don't feel like they're protecting other people by sharing who the person is, that's okay. It's okay if they don't share it, is what you're saying.
That's okay for the if that's a decision they want to make. Yes, it's
Okay,
completely
perfect.
up to
Okay.
them. Yeah. Because if this perpetrator, if someone sexually assaulted me and
Mm-hmm.
I feel comfortable in making it public,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to. I'm the victim. Why
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't I call
Right.
a name or voice it if that's the way I feel like doing it? Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, now you probably would relate. Um, and probably this only applies to people that were assaulted by someone they trusted. So, how do you deal with having complex feelings towards your abuser? Like
For
it's not
example,
just anger or maybe it's someone that you cared about or someone that you thought was someone you could trust, someone like a family member basically, but they betrayed that trust of yours and assaulted you. So dealing with that complex emotion of how could you do that to me, mixed with forgiveness or I wouldn't say love, I'm not sure how to frame this, but this very mixed, bittersweet sort of feeling you have towards your own abuser.
and that does happen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There are survivors who will continue to love that
Mm-hmm.
person. He's still my
Mm-hmm.
father, and I love him. But
Mm-hmm.
they struggle with the this person hurt me who was supposed to be loving me, and that's
Mm-hmm.
traumatic too because you don't know, should I lash out or should I remain committed to loving this person and forgive them. So it's especially for a
Mm-hmm.
child that's traumatic and
Mm-hmm.
confusing, and it happens so much because when you think that
Mm-hmm.
85 to 90% of victims know their perpetrators, the people in position of
Mm-hmm.
trust
Right.
who they love. Yeah, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
conflict in them and how to
Mm-hmm.
deal with that. And each person, as I said, going to deal with it different ways. Some's going to lash out, and some are going to remain in that circle. Some are
Mm-hmm.
continue the abuse continues and continues and continues. for years
Mm-hmm.
and years, sometimes, not only because that victim remains close to that person, but sometimes they don't
Mm-hmm.
have control over the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Ah, it's such
it's
a horrible
complex.
world. It's such a horrible
It's
world.
complex, and there is
Uh,
no one way to deal with it, unfortunately.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, if you don't mind me asking you, how did you deal with it? I mean, it was your own family member, so um,
Fortunately for me, it wasn't someone that was living in the same home.
one sec. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
he was married to an aunt of mine. So yes, I didn't have to be around him all the time. It wasn't someone I had like close affection to. I made sure I wasn't in his company more than I had to. But no, but I don't think anyone noticed. It was never mentioned. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
I just avoided him as much as I could. And I was fortunate that he was not in the same home.
Hi, sorry. Okay. Yes. Could you repeat the last part about um not being close to him?
Oh, I said I didn't have like a close feelings for him. And
Okay. Okay.
yes, and I'm fortunate that we weren't living in the same home. He was a
Mm-hmm.
part of my family, but my aunt and he lived in a separate home.
Separate home. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now I want to actually, no, there's one more question regarding that. So, how do you and I'm not generalizing assaulters, of course, assaulters can be women as well. But usually it is men more often than women. So, but how do you start trusting people again in terms of sexual assault? Like this feeling like, oh, today when I step out, oh my God, am I going to be assaulted again by someone? Like,
And it happens. It's many people. It's takes time to develop trust again and
mm-hmm,
to feel comfortable being around, especially male.
mm-hmm,
I remember one day I went to a store
mm-hmm.
and I just walked around the corner and there was a man standing there and I was so terrified. And that
Oh,
had never happened to me before. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was shocking because I had not experienced, and this was in my adulthood. I was sexually
okay.
assaulted as a child, yes.
Oh, it's been a
So
while.
yes, and I had
Okay.
never had that experience before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's over time, and even after you feel comfortable, you
Mm-hmm.
may be triggered at any time.
Anytime. Okay. And I know again, there's no real way of knowing this, but is it possible that sometimes it could be an intuition that this person is an assaulter? I can't explain it, but like your body remembers some feeling.
Yes,
I don't
and
know how, yeah, yeah.
I'm living in Orlando
Okay.
now.
Uh-huh.
I've been here since 2018, so
Mm-hmm.
like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a certain gentleman that came in my space.
Mm-hmm.
It was some it wasn't a friend of ours, it was connected to neighbors who we invited to my husband's birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
And something about him
Mm-hmm.
just told me he was a perpetrator.
Oh,
And then last year, when they were listing the registered offenders in my community,
oh my
his
God.
name, he was one of them. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I
Oh,
remember my stepdaughter was here and she liked him for some reason. She's in her 20s.
okay,
She
okay.
liked him. And I remember when she met him at the party and she returned to visit and she was said, oh, I would like to say hi to so and so. And I said, remember, we do not know him, so be
Mm-hmm.
very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So when it came out in the paper that he was a registered offender, I sent it to her and she said, oh my God, I remember you told me to be, yes. I just
Definitely.
knew it in my spirit. However,
Mm-hmm.
you may not know it because they're everyday people. You
Right,
know,
exactly,
they
exactly.
are everyday people. They're husbands, fathers, neighbors, pastors, coaches, teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They are so they're not like you're going to recognize them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And sometimes they can come off as so caring and loving on the outside. It's difficult to
most
tell.
of them do. Most of
Uh-huh.
them do.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah. So, uh, it, yeah, but I was just curious about the whole body remembering thing. That's why
yes.
yeah. So, okay, now I want to dive into a different aspect of assault and learning to have sex with other people now, because now how do you start honestly? Because if you're feeling very ashamed and you're having sex with other people, it feels like someone's inside you invading your space, or you feel very triggered about the assault whenever you have sex with someone else. Um, how do you deal with that, or if you have any tips?
And it's complicated
Uh-huh.
as everyone reacts differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think that someone who is raped may later
Mm-hmm.
on become promiscuous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but some victims do go that route because
Mm-hmm.
that's the way the distorted feeling, the
Yeah.
body, you think that, oh, I'm only good to pleasure someone.
Right, right.
Yes, the whole feeling of the way you see yourself and your
Mm-hmm.
self-worth is
Mm-hmm.
changed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and with some survivors, then they'll shut down and don't want
Mm-hmm.
to have anything to do with that, with that. So it's over time working on how do I build a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's some people may have the coping skills and may can go on normally from there,
Mm-hmm.
but others need work.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand what I mean, step by step,
Step
working
by.
with a therapist or a coach to develop skills to take baby steps to let
Mm-hmm.
others in, if you understand,
Okay.
to develop
Um,
intimacy in a relationship.
right. So, if um, how do I frame this? At any point, no one should feel forced to have sex
No,
partners, right?
no one should feel forced. And that goes to learning to set boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
being able to communicate what I'm comfortable with and
Mm-hmm.
what I want in return, ensuring that you're getting and giving consent. You're receiving and giving consent. Consent is a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Am I okay with this? Or can I do that? And
Mm-hmm.
a continuous conversation, not just yes or no. Must be enthusiastically given. If I don't say no, that I didn't say yes either. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
silent, that's not consent.
Right, right.
Yes.
Absolutely. And uh now, of course, like every aspect of your life starts mixing with the other aspects. So, as how do you advise setting boundaries in other aspects as well? Because once you struggle to say no here, and you've been violated after saying no, how do you set boundaries in other aspects of your life as well? Um,
It's over time, it won't be easy
mhm.
because a lot of us become people pleasers
Right, right.
afterwards, people pleasers. So it's learning step by step, just to not accepting things that make you uncomfortable or
Mm-hmm.
people in your space that you know are toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be easy, but gradually, step by step, because it took me a while to be comfortable saying no or not accepting assignments at work that I know was unsafe for me based on the skills I have.
Mm-hmm.
People who I know were not beneficial to have in my space, where
Mm-hmm.
people were angry, negative criticism,
Mm-hmm.
just unkind, which I'm not, and that's not being beneficial to my peace. So
Mm-hmm.
now I can just say, I don't want to be around you, but it took me a long time to get there.
Get that. Okay. But I'm glad you did get that though.
Yes. And if you aren't someone is listening who is not there,
Mm-hmm.
you can work on it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we are all on different stages of our journey,
Mm-hmm.
and each person's journey is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, okay, you were sexually assaulted 30 years ago and you should be over it by now. No,
Mm-hmm.
step by step, it's in your time.
Okay, I love that. And I'm just actually curious because you worked with people, and is it possible that after assault you completely become closed off to having sex with that gender altogether? If whoever it was a man or a woman, you get very scared for a long, long time, and it almost feels like you stopped feeling attracted to people of that gender.
Yes, I have spoken to people who have
Hmm.
expressed that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
all
but
right.
over time with work, then they work out that areas of, where the confusion is.
Mhm.
Uh, and maybe I shouldn't call it confusion, where that feeling came
Mhm.
from and how to overcome that mindset. So it's a process,
It's a process.
working with a professional, yes, but it's
Okay.
not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. All right. So, okay. So I remember you talking about how, children can't get support as easily as adults can after an assault. How can a parent support a child that's been assaulted?
Believe them when they report.
Sorry,
That's the
I'm so
first
sorry.
thing. Believe them when they tell you.
Okay, all
Because,
right.
yes, believe them. A lot of children report abuse and they're not believed by their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. So believe them, take them to see a professional. Of course, you need to make sure they're safe.
Mm-hmm.
Get law enforcement involved because this is a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Children don't, yes, this is a crime. They need medical and mental health support.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you're getting them. And hopefully the perpetrator is not a parent, because then that makes it more complex when the perpetrator is someone in the home.
Mm-hmm.
One parent may not want to turn in the other parent. So, yes.
Yeah, it's sad. Oh God, it's so sad.
Or a sibling, because you have a lot of sibling and sibling sexual assault.
You're right.
That's not being spoken about
And
enough.
about enough, right? So I like how you spoke about having low self-esteem after sexual assault. So could you talk about how you can improve your self-esteem?
And that takes work over time. A lot of what I journal a
Mm.
lot. And
Okay, that's good.
yeah, I journal a lot.
Uh-huh.
Acknowledge how I'm feeling and try to connect, like, why am I feeling this way? You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, I develop a lot of self-care practices,
Mm-hmm.
meditation, taking care of my body, eating right, exercising. So, over time, I learned to love myself, but it's a process
Okay. Love
because
that.
after this body was violated, as I said, it doesn't look the same, it doesn't feel the same. So
Mm-hmm.
it takes time to to develop the relationship with yourself again, to learn to love yourself again, to
Mm-hmm.
accept yourself again.
I love what you said about not looking or feeling the same. So was there any body dysmorphia for you that happened
Just
after this?
besides not just look, just not loving this body that was violated, not
Mm-hmm.
nothing specific. But there are some people who will have different things, man, it depends on where they are and how their relationship with their body before. So, but different people will experience different things.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. And like of course, something like no matter how much you work on it, some things don't really go away, and that trauma does become a part of you. And so let's say you deep down, you've somewhat recovered, you've gotten better, you can get on with your day. How do you suggest someone can deal with visual flashes of after assault, you know,
Flashes,
random
flashback.
flashbacks of, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. My suggestion is working on tools before it happened. Of course, that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
always happen. So one of the things that I
Mm-hmm.
use and I tell some of my clients is, where are you when this flashback occur? Stop. What are you seeing? Like list 3 or 5 things that you can see,
Okay.
smell, hear, taste. Then that's
Mm-hmm.
grounding you into, okay, I'm in a safe space. I'm not at that place where I was abused. I am safe here. I am
Okay.
safe because the flashback is bringing you back to a place you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And your body's developing reactions to protect you. So you're getting into flight or fight,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that your flashback, whatever emotions or actions invoke. So just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Use your senses to identify where you are
Mm-hmm.
and like, okay, not there.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. Okay. And okay, no, that is actually such brilliant advice. I think this usually goes out for um any traumatic flashback, but I really love how you spoke about checking if you're not in a
Yeah.
location nearby. Yeah. So I have one final question for you. So, I don't know if I'm framing this right. So, a lot of assaulters did feel, how do I, they hated that they were assaulted, but their body responded well to the assault. Meaning they were either they had an orgasm or something that they didn't, their brain and their body didn't really connect, and feeling guilty that you hated it but you liked it. I don't know, how do I frame
Yes,
this?
that's not saying you liked it. That's your
Liked it anyway,
body's
that your
natural
body responding.
response.
Right,
Yes.
right, right.
That's an automatic response that your
Mhm.
body, does. So
Mhm.
I know a lot of victims feel ashamed, but just know that that's your body responding. That's not you. It's an
Mhm.
automatic response, not a purposeful response in that sense. But it does happen.
Mhm.
Yes. And it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Okay, thank you
Yes.
so
It's nothing
much.
to be ashamed of. It happens.
It happens. Okay. It's interesting how our body responds to things even when we feel uncomfortable. I think it's
Yes. It's your brain is sending one signal and yes.
right. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here today. And what you're doing for people is truly, truly brilliant. And please keep doing what you do. People
Thank you
need
so
it.
much.
People really
Yes,
need
I
it.
was I was silent for a long time, and now that I start talking, I'm not going to shut up. So
Please don't shut up. Please.
yes, that's my mission to help others, get the help and support they need to advocate for survivors of sexual violence.
Okay. And thank you so much for giving people hope. Things can get better. And yeah, so this recording will go on YouTube eventually. And yeah, I
Thank
hope you
you.
have
Oh,
fun.
I have a oh, I'll message you.
Okay, perfect. Oh, and your book too, right? You have a book.
Yes, my memoir, Things That
Mm.
Keep Me Up at Night. It's
Ah.
available on Amazon and wherever
Mm-hmm.
books are sold online.
Mm-hmm.
You can also download my free guide, sarecoverygift.com.
Okay. I will.
Yeah, so if you,
Perfect. Okay. I will link that on Reframing Yours website, and I will also send it on the group. So it's a free guide, right?
it's a free guide,
Okay.
sarecoverygift.com.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect. Hey, it says gift. Okay, love that.
thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Take care. Bye.